Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and today I'm going to be talking about women's struggles with modern dating. So I did another video all about modern dating struggles, and while there's a lot of overlap between the problems that I think men and women are facing, I got a lot of requests to do a video specifically for the problems that women face or the struggles they face. And look, just to preface, I'm not saying that some of these struggles aren't self-inflicted. I do think a lot of struggles we go through as a society, men and women, are often self-inflicted struggles. They're self-sabotage, things we do to ourselves. You know, it just kind of is what it is. But nonetheless, they're still struggles, and I wanted to talk about them today. You guys know I always try to be open-minded and see both sides. In order to paint the full picture, I do think it is important to be able to see both sides, and that is what we always do on this channel. So keep that in mind when you're watching. Keep in mind also that there are people who choose to be single, and that is not what I'm talking about today. I think these are the reasons why modern women are single, not by choice. Maybe these are people who want a relationship but can't seem to get one. I think that these are some of the reasons. So let's get started. Number one, we've got casual versus commitment. And unfortunately, that casual train has taken off, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Because of hookup culture and a fear of commitment, I think there are a lot of men out there who don't want to commit, or maybe they have been burned in the past and don't want to commit to anybody else or pursue a relationship or marriage with anybody else. And to that, I would say I understand where you're coming from, but there are also a lot of women out there who are wifey material, who do want to get married or be in a serious relationship, and they're not able to find that because of the lack of people wanting to commit. And I would say that men are also dealing with this. I think there's also a lot of confusion these days when it comes to dating and what exactly that looks like. We've been seeing each other 5 days a week for 4 months. What are we? That sounds to me like you're in a relationship, but one of you doesn't want to put a title on it. I think a lot of times people will start seeing someone casually, like hooking up with them, and expect something else to come out of it, and it never gets to that point, and the woman or whoever wants the commitment in the equation often feels very resentful, disappointed, confused, because they thought, oh, if I, hook up with this person, it will turn into something more, and unfortunately, I don't think that's the case a lot of the time, and I think it's creating a lot of problems. Casually hooking up might work for some people, but it doesn't work for a lot of people, and I think people get in a little bit too far before they realize that, and then it becomes, a big confusion mess, and someone always ends up disappointed. Because of this fear of commitment and often a lack of transparency about this, I think a lot of people are wasting each other's time. That's why I think it's very important to be intentional and to be honest about what you're looking for. That way, nobody walks away resentful from, whatever happens. So if you're just looking for a hookup, be very honest about that. And if you're someone who is seeing someone who told you they just want to hook up, they just want to hook up. Don't try to see it for what you want it to be. Don't try to think, oh, well, maybe with me he'll be different. No, we're not doing that. See what is in front of you, and that's it. This is why it is so important to be honest, to see things for what they are and not what you want them to be, and also find someone whose values align with yours. And I could really go into a ton more detail here. I know there are things that I'm leaving out, but I'm not trying to make a movie today. I could do an entire video all about casual versus commitment. I think this could be a standalone video on its own. So if you guys would want to see that, please let me know down below. But really, I think it's causing a lot of issues for men and women both. I think it's doing more harm than good, to be totally honest with you. Number two, we've got no effort. I think sometimes people forget that anything worth having, you have to work for. And a relationship is not always just going to fall into your lap. You have to put in the work and make it happen. So this is something, again, that I think has stemmed from casual hookups and hookup culture as a whole. People just want the quick, instant gratification, easy flings, and not the work that it takes to actually commit to somebody. So people maybe aren't putting in effort. They're sending the you up or what's up text at 11 p.m. when they just want to hook up with you, and they don't want to take you on a date or, do anything like that. And I think a lot of women are getting very angry about this. Now, I think the expectations here are becoming a little bit ridiculous. Your standards should be based upon behavior and a mutual respect for each other, more so than, how much he spends on you on a first date. I think people often confuse standards and preferences and what the difference is there. And you can prefer that a guy would take you to a restaurant versus, a coffee date. That's a preference. I don't think that's necessarily a standard. I think our standards should be based upon the way that someone treats you, the way that someone respects you, and less about material objects or how much money someone is spending on you. Those are not standards, those are preferences. So really also finding someone whose idea of effort aligns with yours is also important, because if you're a guy who is, wanting to take a girl out and she tells you, I only accept the 5-star restaurant dates, and that's not aligned with what your lifestyle is, then maybe don't go out with her, because it's clear that you guys are not in alignment on that. People are allowed to have their preferences. Whether or not I agree with it is a totally different story, but everyone is entitled to their own opinion and preferences, and you just simply can choose not to go out with someone like that if that doesn't align with who you are and what you're looking for. So keep that in mind. But if you're a guy watching this, I also want you to understand that you do have to put in a little bit of effort. Men and women need to be putting in effort. It is not a one-way street. Your time, effort, and energy should be reciprocated, and I would tell any man or woman watching this the same thing. If you like someone and want to get to know them, you have to put in the effort. Take them out on a date. It does not have to be expensive, and if the person is saying it has to be expensive and that doesn't, again, align with what you want or what you're looking for in a person, then think about that before you decide to take them out. I also think there are a lot of men out there who are becoming kind of fed up with taking women out because the women they're choosing to go out with are just manipulating them or using them for whatever they can do for them. So buying an expensive dinner, taking them shopping, buying them things, and more on what this person can do for me versus do I have an actual connection with this person and want to get to know them and build something here. So it's kind of a reactive problem that is just going full circle. Women are manipulating men, and then men are getting fed up with it and they don't want to take women out, and it just becomes this vicious cycle of everyone hating each other, and it's a really big problem. There's also this whole I don't care mentality, and people thinking that whoever can care less should win some sort of award. That's not the way that life works. The I don't care mentality should come into play when you're chasing someone, which you shouldn't be doing. Also keep in mind that chasing and pursuing are very different things, and that I don't care mentality is good for the people who are the chasers, the people who are obsessing over someone who's giving them nothing, who are being simps. The I don't care mentality is important for those type of people, and being okay with what happens regardless if it's not the outcome that you wanted. So pursuing someone, again, and chasing someone are very different. I did an entire video on it. If you're confused, go watch it. Number 3, we've got unrealistic standards. And I talked about this already in my modern dating video, but I think it's incredibly important that I touch on it again because it is such a big problem. Nobody is perfect. And let me say that again so that it really sinks in. Nobody is perfect. Not a single person. And I know I brought up standards and preferences earlier in the video, but I really want to touch on that again because I think people need to be far more realistic when it comes to their standards and their preferences. Maybe instead of our standards being based on if a guy is 6 foot tall or has a yacht, maybe we should look at how they treat us instead, because that is what really matters. Do your values, goals, and ideas of success align? That is what actually matters and what you should be basing your standards on. Preferences are different, but I think it's very important to distinguish the difference between standards and preferences. And the same thing goes for men here. Instead of looking for the girl with the biggest butt, maybe look for someone who is kind and compassionate and a hard worker and who puts in the work for a relationship and doesn't just expect everything to be handed to her. I think a lot of men and women are equally frustrated with each other because they're going after the wrong type of people. And before you go setting all these unrealistic standards for everyone around you, take a look at yourself first. Are you someone that you would want to date? If not, you got to work on yourself before you can even think about setting all these unrealistic standards for everyone else. And just to reiterate again here, I think this is a big problem for men and for women. And I think it's something that social media has really made us even more unrealistic about, because you see all these perfect people living their perfect lives online, and you have to remind yourself that that's fake. It's not real, and comparing yourself to people like that or setting standards in your life based off of what you see online are completely unrealistic. It's not real. Not everyone is going to live a luxurious lifestyle with trips every weekend and luxury designer bags and driving a fancy car and living in $1 million house. You have to work for that. You can't just expect it to fall into your lap or feel entitled to it. Honestly, the standards and preferences of our society are just completely messed up. So I hope that this little point I made here helps some people see this more clearly and stop being so unrealistic. Number 4, is there something better? Woe is me, women have too many options is probably what all of you guys are thinking, but having too many options can actually be a very bad thing. And I know a lot of you guys are probably rolling your eyes, so stick with me here. When you have so many options, it makes you seriously question your decisions. Being completely objective here, I do think that women have far more options than men do, especially on dating apps and online in general. So this has become a huge issue, and I think it also creates a distorted reality for women because they're so used to getting all these matches and messages and attention that they think that, you know, this is going to last forever, or it's going to result in them getting the man that they want. So because women have more options, we're using dating apps as an example here, they feel like they can be more picky, right? Because they have all these options. If you have all these options, you can kind of be more picky about what you want. But the problem becomes all the women typically want the same group of men. So then they're not getting the men they want because these are the same men that all the women are going after. And there's also a ton of good men that aren't being sought after because they're not, you know, the richest or most handsome people on the planet. And that brings up a whole other topic that I mentioned in my other modern dating video, is that, you know, people aren't applying themselves. People aren't being the best version of themselves that they can be, and therefore aren't included in that top group of men. So guys, there's a ton of problems, and I know I'm all over the place when I talk about it, but I want you guys to see that it's kind of like a flow chart that leads from one thing to the next. This problem causes this one, and then we're over here, and it's just a whole bunch of problems. And it's unfortunate, but as a society, I think it's a huge problem of everyone always looking for the next best thing or something better, when in reality, we should be thankful for what we have and practice gratitude for, you know, what we have versus what we don't, and stop always trying to find the next best thing. I know everyone wants the best for themselves, but be able to see the things in your life that are already really wonderful, and you have to be able to appreciate those before you can even think about getting something better. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. I would love to get a conversation going on hypergamy and always looking for something better, because I do think it's a huge problem. And I know I mentioned this in a past video that I did, but there was a study done with jam at a supermarket, and in the last video I thought it was honey, but my subscribers corrected me down in the comments. And when people were given more jam options at the supermarket, they were less satisfied and less happy with their choice because they had so many options to choose from. The people who had less options were more happy and more confident in their choice. So I know it's silly to compare people with jams at a supermarket, but it really is the same thing. And the results, I mean, if you look at society, are similar. And my last point, a very frustrating one, is the notion or idea that I can change him. No, you can't, and you shouldn't want to. This is one of those struggles that is pretty self-inflicted, and it's honestly just self-sabotage, but I think a lot of women are going after men who are not good for them. They know they're not good for them, but they go in thinking, I can change him, or, oh, he'll be different with me, or I can be the one to make him change. And the reality is that you should not want to change someone. You should not have to change someone. You should be going after people who, again, have values and, you know, ideas about life and goals and success that align with yours. So if you're dating someone who mistreats you, who is horrible to you, who cheats on you, who is a player, really rethink what you're doing, because I promise you, you're only going to end up heartbroken. And I know that my audience is 95% male and 5% female, so there's probably not that many women watching this, but I really hope that I reach some women with this one, because I think it's incredibly important. I've done a whole video about why women go after bad guys, and honestly, they go after the guys who are emotionally unavailable because they're emotionally unavailable and they have unresolved trauma that they need to work on. So a lot of times it just becomes a vicious cycle that ultimately ends up doing you dirty in the end. So you're better off just not going after these type of guys, and you're missing out on a ton of amazing guys because you're going after the wrong ones. Girls going after the wrong guy, ending up heartbroken and disappointed, is way too common, and unfortunately it affects the next guy in line or the way that they view other guys. I've seen a ton of videos that girls post about how all men are trash or all men are garbage because they had a bad experience, but that's because they went after the wrong guy and they thought that they could change him, when in reality you just can't. So understand that when you do that, it shapes the way that you view men as a whole. So when you respect yourself and you go after good people who, again, have values and ideas about life and success and goals that align with yours, you're not going to have a bad experience like you would going after someone who you think that you can change and who clearly is not good for you. So I would say the same thing to men. Men, stop going after girls who are not good for you, who are using you, who are manipulating you, who don't want commitment and just want you to buy them things or want you to be the fill-in attention guy. Really pay attention to the people you're going after and understand that it often reflects reflects some internal trauma and issues and insecurities that we need to work on ourselves. So keep that in mind. So let me know in the comments down below what all of you guys and gals that are maybe watching this think. Always love to hear from all of you in the comments. So really, I think it is important to be able to see both sides and understand how one problem can kind of turn into a flow chart and affect everyone. Everything you do has a consequence, whether it be good or bad. So don't forget that. And I really just think that there are a ton of issues when it comes to modern dating. And I know, again, I couldn't highlight all of them in this video because I didn't want to make a movie today and really just wanted to keep it within the realm of a YouTube video. So I know I probably missed some, but I think these are some really big ones on why women are single. I think these things affect both parties, and unfortunately it's creating this huge war between men and women that is not good for anyone, and I hate to see, because we need each other to survive, to procreate, to keep our civilization going. So I think it's important to realize that as well. But the most important thing, I think, is being able to see both sides and taking accountability for the decisions that you're making and how it's affecting your life and the people around you. So if you guys like this video or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Courtney Christine Ryan. I love connecting with all of you guys on there as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.